And record.
Awesome. Hello, TCL-10. Welcome to our first weekly sync. Congratulations to ahead of time for all of your hard work. I'd like to start with intros because we have a new member. So I'll start and then I'll pick someone and we'll continue down the line. So my name is Lauren Beatty. I live in Minnesota with my family. I have two sons. I have a 14-year-old son, almost 15, and then I have an 11-year-old, Hal and Fritz. And I have two dogs, one of whom is really nice and a good dog, and one of whom is like total work in progress. She's kind of sweet sometimes.
I like that you take a growth mindset with your dog too.
I mean, she's really trying, and she just needs lots of love. And she's getting it, but man, sometimes she's challenging. Okay, what else can I tell you? And I'm a software engineer I'm a front-end developer specifically for a company called Treasure Data that's based in Mountain View, California, and I work remotely, and I've always worked remotely for them. So this COVID hasn't been a huge change for me personally in terms of the way that I'm working. Yeah. That's it. That's who I am. So I'm going to pick Matt next.
Perfect. Thanks, Lauren. My name is Matt. I live in Northern California with my fiance. She should have been my wife, but COVID made us move our wedding to next year. Pronouns he, his, and him. I am a alum of a boot camp up in Portland. I lived there for about a year until till March. I actually moved home the day lockdown started in California. And I am currently a contracted software engineer with a fantasy motorsports startup called Grid Rival. I've recently been doing part-time with them, but it sounds like maybe I'll be able to go back to full-time now that they got some more cash flow with Formula One racing starting back up. So that would be exciting. And I think that's kind of the bulk. Yeah. I'm an assistant mentor. It's my first time being a mentor, and I've been a participant twice in this program, and then a similar one a pilot one that me and Andrew and a few others did. So yeah, that's everything for the most part about me. I'll pass it to Keeley.
Hi, everyone. I'm Keeley Hammond. My pronouns are she, they. I live up in Portland, Oregon with my husband, Dave, and my dog, Luna. You might see Dave walking behind me making coffee here. So that's who that is. You see him. I'm currently a senior software engineer at InVision. We're a design tooling company. And I'm also a maintainer on Electron, which is an open source project that lets you make desktop apps using web technologies. So you can build what looks like a native app, but use JavaScript and Node to do it. So yeah, that's me in summary, and I will pass it over to Quinn.
Hi, I'm Quinn. I'm based out of Jersey. I went to the Flatiron School coding boot camp. I did like an internship like a couple months after that, but I've kind of just been like bouncing around trying to figure out what I really want to work on. But yeah.
Who's next, Quinn?
Oh yeah. I'll pass it to Kat.
Hi, I'm Kat. My pronouns are she, her, hers, or they, them, theirs. I'm based in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I have a cat named Vespa. She's been a little sick this week, so sorry I haven't been online as much. She's been at the Little Kitty Hospital. And yeah, I graduated from a school called Juno. It used to be known as Hacker U a couple weeks ago. So I'm very, very fresh, no experience. So I will be leaning on all of you very much.
Who's next, Kat?
Sorry, Lauren, on to you.
Hi, I'm Lauren. I'm originally from Buffalo, New York, which is where I'm at right now. We just got here yesterday, so it feels really good to be home. And I'm kind of flying high right now because we did a COVID test just to, like reassure my parents, and it came back earlier today, which I was prepared to spend the week in a mask, so I'm really glad that that came back.
Nice.
Yeah, I have a background in math and music, and we just I just found out that the other Lauren went to Eastman too, so that's really cool. But I graduated from Flatiron in May, and since then, just a couple weeks ago, I started an internship. So it's been a lot, but it's been in the good direction. I'm grateful to have everything right now. Yeah, really happy to be here. And I guess Andrew.
Oh yeah, thanks. So I'm Andrew Hedges, and I'm founder of Collab Lab. But my day job is I'm an engineering manager at a company called Zapier, and Zapier, there's several Zapians who are kind of help out as mentors at Collab Lab. But we're a workflow automation company, so you can connect any two SaaS apps together using Zapier. Almost not any, but most of them, about 2,000 apps. So I lead a small team there, and yeah, I've been a web developer for over 20 years, and before that, kind of had a short career in higher ed administration, so counseling and human development stuff. So love Collab Lab. It's like my favorite thing that I do. And yeah, I'm in Portland, Oregon. I think we talked a little bit about that earlier. So Tiana, you want to introduce yourself?
All right. Hi, everyone. I just got back from like a 30-mile bike ride, and I did some poor planning, so I'm like a little disheveled. But what's my background here? Oh, she, they pronouns. And so my quick background is basically for the last, I'd say about 15 years of my life, I've been a bike messenger and a bike mechanic. And I graduated from Prime Digital Academy in Minneapolis, Minnesota a year and a half ago, like spring of 2019. I'm from Minnesota. I moved to Colorado 6 months ago. So this is all beautiful timing, move during a pandemic and not know anybody and try to find a job. I have yet to land a tech job. That doesn't surprise me in any way. And I'm still a bike mechanic. So hi, guys.
That's great.
Awesome. We're super excited you're here. I think, so I went to Prime too. We went to the same boot camp, and I graduated in 2015, in the fall of 2015. And they've had, I'm curious to see like what the impact of the job situation in the Twin Cities is, because they've had a ton of cohorts, and there have been a couple of other boot camps opening up in the Twin Cities too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious about that. All right, let us move on to demos. Oh my gosh, you are all so amazing. This work is so good. So I'm going to pass it off to Kat and Lauren. I'd ask you to demo first, please. And if you want to just go ahead and share your screens and get set up, I'll pass it off to you.
Okay, and just to double check that our plan is correct. Our plan was to demo what it looks like, and then also to go through the code. Is that correct? Am I missing anything?
That sounds perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
Great. So for our task this week, we were tasked with creating a bottom nav bar. So we can take a look at the code first. And in app, we added React Router DOM, so that basically, even though we're in a single page application, it will reflect the it will change the URL at the top so that someone can copy and paste that link. And so we used a switch statement, and then down below, we can see that if there is an exact match, so all the way a little bit further down. Yep, if there's an exact path match for /list or /add item, it will then go to the corresponding component. And then underneath that, we have the bottom nav, which contains links to those pages for like starting in the app, and it'll be displayed since it's a nav bar on every page. So in the nav bar, we can see that we used a nav link thanks to the suggestion of Quinn, where if that page is active, it has the class name selected view, which means that it's bolded in our case. And we have 2 items right now, which are currently list items, but eventually it looks like we'll be making them into tags. And then over on the right side, for the actual demo part, we can see that our portion was in the bottom. So if you click on list, then we have just a placeholder for now that says, this is the list. And you can see that it's bolded when it's on matching that URL. And then if you click add item, this is the add item view page. And I believe that's it.
Cool. And if you refresh the page, it stays on that current navigation. So that's awesome.
Yeah,
Hooray.
that's great. Mm-hmm.
And if you want to, who's sharing? Kat, are you sharing?
I am.
Okay, cool. If you want to, you can tab between the links, and then when you hit return, it will navigate to that. So let's see, like click on add item once, or yeah, there you go. And then if you tab to add item and hit return. So that's really great. Like that means that it's accessible for people who are navigating using their keyboards. So that's awesome.
Awesome. I really like that you factor the navigation out into its own component. It's really a really nice pattern to get into.
Yep. Was there anything in particular that was tricky, or what was tricky, or what felt what was straightforward and what was tricky about this task, I guess?
Well, in the beginning, we were using props.history, that part of what we used with router, and it just was a little messier. We had to create some ternary statements for declaring the class name. Mm-hmm. So this Quinn suggestion made it a lot cleaner, but I think that was the part that we spent the most time on, how to make them bold and how to kind of clean it up a little bit. But in general, I think, yeah, I think that was the biggest thing that took our time.
The biggest hurdle.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Really great job. And yeah, I love the suggestion of the nav link. That's fantastic. I love how you factored it out into its own component. Very nice. Other questions or comments for the team?
Yeah, Quinn and Tiana, does that all kind of make sense to you when you watch the run through?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Cool. All right, Quinn, you're up. Nice job.
Cool.
Yep.
Awesome. Is it possible to share two screens or just one?
Oh yeah, Kat, you'll need to stop sharing yours and then.
Oh, you can only share one. Did you want me to share for you, Quinn, or did you want to share your own screen?
I guess I'll share just because I have to show there's a couple of like Firestore stuff. Cool.
Sure.
Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Looks good.
Yep.
Okay. Awesome. So where is it? Okay, so I had to add two dependencies. I had to add the Firebase, it was React Firestore, and then it was also the Firebase dependency. So that was the first thing. And then from there, so I'm just trying to pull up the requirements. And then from there, had to write to the Firestore from the app, and then also if any documents or a new collection was added to the Firestore, it had to appear in the app, so it would sync it automatically. These two. So first thing I did was write the Firestore function right here. So I wanted to extract it just because it seemed simple enough to extract, and I didn't feel like I was like doing too much code over it. Like I didn't want to waste too much time. So I created that function, and then from there, I was able to use it like whenever the form is submitted. So you give it the collection name, and then you also give it a set of options to add to the document. Where is it? So and Gabby had all the forms in place. So she did a really good job with that. But we talked about it, and I wasn't so sure that I wasn't sure that Material UI was like a good. I wasn't sure that we had agreed upon like a library to use, and I wanted to see if there was something that everybody was more familiar with. Like, you know, if we were all familiar with Material UI, then go ahead and do it. So I converted it into HTML, just like pure, without using Material, and then and then up here, this is actually the most interesting part. I think I learned a lot about this. This function call allows you to sync your data using Firestore has this like query. Where is it? Yeah, so they have this snapshot function you can use on a collection, which will consistently sync your data based on like whatever collection you input. So you just I just push all the results that you get into an array, and then from here I just set the results. So it'll automatically update, and I can actually show that now. Where? It's TCL.
Yeah, that looks right.
I'm going to go there. I just searched for it last time.
Sure.
Okay. So when you add an item from the app, so it shows up, and then you check your Firestore. You can see that it's updated. And then also, if you were to add a document,
Pickles.
yes,
Fair,
and
fair.
then it reads it to you. Yeah, so, and that's basically it. And the results are being mapped, so it's, yeah, so it just all shows up.
I really like your instinct of you're kind of backing out of Material UI until you have a chance to talk to the group about it. Like that's kind of really nice, because people may have different opinions or just like different things that you're familiar with. And the other thing too is that the styling of the app at this point isn't that important. There's going to be time towards the end where you really can focus on that. So, not spending too much time on that early on is probably a good call as well.
Pretty cool. And I like the Semantic HTML that you used and the other team used. I was really impressed with that. What else? Everything was fantastic. I mean, you really went above and beyond with like the adding a form, and it's so nice to see everything update in real time. It's really nice.
Yeah, you're going to make it easy for
actually
this coming week, having the form already in place.
Yeah, no kidding.
and actually, Gabby had created there was a call in here where it was like, if the results are 0, refresh the results, which like I was like that makes sense. Like, but then upon finding non-snapshot, I was like, that's exactly what they want us to do. So
yeah.
So,
does that on snapshot thing make sense to everybody? It's maybe not super apparent, like kind of what's happening there. It's so the DB is the Firebase actual, like that's a reference to the Firestore database, right? It's saying like, we're going to watch this collection, the collection called shopping list. And every time that Firestore sends a new snapshot of the database, it gives you a reference to that you can then use to kind of make these calls, using the actual kind of low-level APIs for it. So at least that's my understanding of how that works.
Is it kind of like an alternative to WebSocket? I mean, you're like live updating, right? So that's.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably they probably have all that stuff abstracted. They're probably using WebSocket where they can, and they're using, like long polling or some other technique on older or less capable browsers. But yeah, it's probably using WebSocket under the hood. Yeah.
I was just going to ask, is this your first time working with Firestore, Quinn? Or are you familiar with it before?
Actually, so I've used like Postgres like almost exclusively in my projects. So I'm not so familiar with like the NoSQL stuff. But I mean the documentation for this is like awesome. Like they read data and like add and manage data were like the two things that I went through. And actually, when I was first writing this collection function over here, because this is almost copy pasted. When I was writing it, I tried to set the results on this line the entire time. So it was like making the call every time that a new document was sent. Which, like, if you have 10 documents, it would continue. So I had to like put it below because you create the array then. But no, I haven't really used Firestore or Firebase.
Awesome. And so you mainly just kind of went through the documentation to figure this out. That's great. Yeah. I'm always just curious when people like first encounter like Firestore as part of this, because it's separate from like the React portion. I'm curious kind of their approach if they watch tutorials or just documentation. So yeah, you did great. You picked that up really fast. That's awesome.
Yeah, super nice.
I think also the code.
Go ahead, Quinn. Sorry, it's just a lag from Zoom.
I think that the code that Gabby had written was really instrumental in like pointing me in the right direction too, because the refresh results, I was like, oh, they might, like, I feel like they have something that will allow you to like automatically sync it. So like that also pushed me toward looking for this as well.
Nice.
I was just wondering, because I am very new to Firestore also, but I noticed that when I've tried adding stuff, it kind of seemed like a random order. Is there a certain order that's being used right now, or how is it determining the order? Do you know?
So yeah, there's no order right now. That's definitely worth like checking into for sure. I'm not sure exactly how it handles the order yet, but
I think it's in alphabetical order by the keys, but the keys are randomly generated, I think.
Yeah, I think Kat put that in the chat too. Yeah.
Oh, you did? Oh, yeah. Ah, yeah. Oh, nice. Well done.
And then in future stories, we will manage the sorting and the filtering of those items. So we'll be able to organize those in a different way. Awesome. What other questions do people have? Oh, there's nothing. Awesome. Well done, everybody. Super, just blown away by everyone's work. Really good job.
Yeah, really good.
All right, I am going to turn it over to Keeley, who is going to do a presentation today. So our learning module today is on code review.
All right, so sorry, Quinn. Oh, perfect, there we go. All right, so I will share my screen here. Can everyone see our little code review icon?
Yep.
Perfect. All right, so I think all of you have some experience with code reviews, it sounds like, either through bootcamp or even through this just past week. But we just wanted to go over what makes a really good code review, give you some tips on how to approach a code review when you're the one reviewing the code, as well as when it's your PR that's actually being reviewed. So just some of the things we're going to cover. What is a code review? The cycle. What makes a code review a really good code review? And then that give and take of if it's my code versus others' code, how do I actually approach it? So first thing, what is a code review at its most basic form? You've all done it in some shape or fashion. And essentially, a code review is a conversation about a set of changes. But it's also a really good way for a team to share knowledge and actually learn from others. So when you join a team for the first time, your first code reviews are a really good way for you to start understanding the form of the code base, how your colleagues might approach the code, styles, and things like that. So a code review is a really good way to share that knowledge communally, not just between the people actually talking on the CR, but also other people that can go back and look at the pull requests later for some guidance. So it's really a collaboration space where you can share your work and ask questions, and it helps your team decentralize knowledge, share responsibility, and improve that overall code base quality. So that's what we want to have in mind when we approach a code review. The code review cycle itself is pretty straightforward. Once you have changes that you're wanting to be reviewed, you open a pull request, ask for some feedback. You receive feedback and then make the changes as you need to. And as soon as you have an approval, you merge it into the code base. So this is really what I wanted to cover. What makes a code review a great code review? I'm curious, has anybody ever had a code review, and you can just do show of hands, that you were just like, oh, this is rough. Like, this is a rough experience. Lauren, Andrew. So I think a lot of people approach code reviews with very good intentions, but I think there are some things that make code reviews really good, and then there's some things that can make code reviews pretty painful. And I think on the top of things that can make code reviews painful is focusing on stylistic changes that really should be left for Prettier and ESLint. And you can see we have a couple examples here. So looking at semicolons, spaces, tabs, if these are really egregious, I think they're worth mentioning. You know, if somebody's formatting is just way off and unreadable, you do want to say something. But in general, it's better to leave kind of smaller issues like that, not for CRs. Just encourage them. If you see a bunch of things like that, maybe say, hey, listen, our team uses Prettier. If you need help getting that set up, I'm happy to get that set up for you, but there's no need to go through and add a bunch of little things in the CR. What's better to focus on is the overall impact of the code. So trying out the feature locally in your test environment, making sure the code is really easy to understand. So you, as somebody who hasn't been working on it, can you look at it at a glance and understand pretty clearly what's going on? And also, don't just use code reviews for saying, hey, this is what needs to be fixed. If you see something really impressive, like if you like the way somebody's written a function, or if you think that their approach is really elegant, make sure to mention that as well. PRs are a really good place to have praise, especially because they're so public and other teammates and managers can see them. If you feel a teammate is doing a good job, it's also important to call that out. So running the code locally, this is something that I actually feel very strongly about. I think that anytime you do review a pull request, you should always pull the feature locally and actually try it. It's really easy to just look at the code and think, oh yeah, this looks good, this will definitely work, and then pull it down, and you might catch an edge case that they missed, or you might approach something a slightly different way than they did. So as tempting as it is to just say like, oh, looks good to me, thumbs up, I would always test the code locally, give it a try, and then leave your comments afterwards. And if you're not sure exactly how to test a PR, I think it's okay to go ahead and ask the author, hey, what are the actual steps that you would use to test this code? And then from your perspective, if you want a really thorough code review, how can you help others do that? So the first thing I would do is add a meaningful PR description. And I want to call out Kat and Lauren. I think you all did a really nice job here. This is exactly what we did in this PR. This is the acceptance criteria. So when I went in and actually pulled this PR down and tested it, it was very, very easy for me to know what I was looking for, what should be working, what shouldn't be working. So I think you all did a really nice job there. If possible, writing meaningful commit messages is also really helpful, and then dividing your commits by different steps, especially if you have a fairly large feature task and you're dividing that into smaller steps. Breaking that up by commit can be really helpful. Self-reviewing your code, so just explaining why you might have approached something a certain way, and asking questions. I actually do this quite a bit at work. I'll highlight a portion of my PR and say, this is how I approached it. I actually don't know if this is the best way. Could I get some feedback on this? So if there's specific code that you really want others' input on, just highlight that and call it out. And then screen capture tools are very, very helpful. So I personally use Loom. I really like it. Zappy is also awesome. I really like using Zappy, as well as Sketch. So even just recording yourself going over either the code itself or the feature, that can help people quite a bit in seeing what they need to review. I'm going to stop here. Does anybody have any questions about what I've covered so far? Or any places where you maybe disagree?
I don't have any like a question. I was just going to add, I think it was a previous mentor or participant I worked with, was saying like for the commit part, it's almost like you're telling a story. So like as you commit, if you break it down little pieces, and you can kind of follow that story along and see kind of exactly like what they were doing that led up to the PR, which I always kind of have that in my head whenever I do my commits and like the process I go through. I always find that really useful for helping people see what I did.
I like that a lot. That's a really good way to approach it. Yeah, it's funny. It's always funny to see a commit that's something like, oops, or, oh, I broke this. And those are always funny to see, but they aren't very descriptive, to your point, Matthew. So yeah, when you can make them more descriptive and tell that story, I think that is a good way to think about it. All right, so I'm actually going to jump over to GitHub here because this is something that I learned recently actually from Collab Lab. So thank you, Collab Lab, for teaching me how to do this. If you want to review a PR by commit, so when you go to the actual pull request and you click Files Changes, you can scroll down and see all of the code that was changed. And Lauren and Kat, thank you again. I'm using your PR as an example here. But if you want to actually look by commit, you can go here and see changes from all commits. And now I can see all of the commits that you all have added here, and I can start here. If I just want to look at your first, now it's really easy for me to see the code that was added by commit. And if I want to just cycle through that instead of having to go through the drop-down menu each time, I can go over here, press next, and jump to the next commit. So if I wanted to go commit by commit, this is a really easy and clear way to do it. And then another thing that you can do on GitHub, and I actually use this quite a bit at work as well. So if I change this to all commit, and let's say I'm looking at your CSS, okay, great, I think this looks great. I can click view and it'll just auto collapse for me. And that's a nice way, especially if you have a PR that has quite a few files changed and you want to keep track of what you've looked at already. It's just a nice way to keep track of that for you. So those are just some of the features on GitHub that you can use. And I want to open the floor to all of you. What has been your experience in the past with code reviews? And then did you have any thoughts on how it felt to do code reviews this week? Also, if you have any strong opinions too on what you personally like to get out of code reviews versus what you look for in code reviews, I'd be really curious to hear.
Well, maybe I'll go first. I have never had code reviews in this way. I've had code reviews where I had like small finished labs or small project, well, big projects, but usually once they're completed, not along the way. And I always really appreciate any feedback about how I can make something more efficient or effective or clean. So yeah, I really do appreciate any tips you guys have.
Thanks, Lauren. That's a great one. I like that too. Like I'll, when I'm working with my team, I'll highlight a function I'm working on often and just be like, hey, is there a better way to do this? It's satisfying to get that kind of feedback. Anyone else have thoughts?
I love what you shared earlier in the presentation, that a PR is really useful for the future. So I find myself going back and looking at old PRs all of the time. So the more information and the more communication that happens in that pull request is really, really useful. And then I guess one other thing that I do personally that's helpful for me is I always do a self-review. So when I submit a PR, I'll put in any applicable comments, like wasn't quite sure what to do here. I mean, that's exactly what Keeley had said, like this does the job, but I imagine there's a better way. Or, you know, if something, if a particular piece of code is a little goofy looking, I can say, okay, this is why I had to do it this way, and point out the relevant articles maybe, or blog posts that I reference to solve a particular piece of functionality. Again, like it's good for the reviewers and it's good for future people to be able to look at.
I did want to call out one thing, just a pattern that I've noticed in kind of healthy code review environments is a default to acceptance. I wanted to highlight, so Andrew actually gave me a code review as I was onboarding here, and I made one mistake. My photo was the wrong size, but you notice here he says, hey, approving this so you can merge once you make that change. And I do try to do that as much as possible, especially if the change is small, or if it's just a disagreement on how you would handle something versus the way another person would handle something. I do try to default to approval whenever possible. And I think that that's a good practice in general, as long as there's not breaking changes.
Yeah, that's super important when you have a big group maybe spread out across time zones and things, and it's really costly to go through like another approval cycle. And in a case like with yours, like just resize the image and we're good. It's not like I don't trust you to do that. I need to check it. You know what I mean? So it makes a ton of sense to sort of default to approval there.
All right. Any other thoughts or questions that people have?
I really loved the PR template. I thought that was absolutely amazing, and it really set us up for success because we knew exactly what we needed to outline, so that we could make it as like sort of robust as possible.
Yeah, I'm with you, Kat. I love having good PR templates. I think they're so helpful.
Is this typical? Is this how all of your work setups are?
I'd be curious to hear, Andrew and Lauren, yours. We do use a PR template at work. I love it. We try to add it anytime we have a new repo. We use that same template and modify it as we need to. But yeah, the places I've worked have had them.
Yeah, the template is actually based on the one that we use at Zapier. But Zapier is the first place where I've worked where we had a template. So it's great. Yeah, super helpful.
I just wanted to throw out there that during this, I saw that and I was thinking, how is everybody making them look so beautiful?
Yeah.
I've never seen those before. And I was like digging through that as you guys were talking. Like, oh, that's crazy. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's nice to make that all automated. So like as Kat says, it just really sets you up for success. Where I work, we have a PR template. It's not nearly as robust.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it is really nice to have a really just clear PR template like that.
I'll just say one last thing about the whole like code reviews in general. It's just like it can feel scary, like you're kind of like you kind of maybe you're invested in your work a little bit and those kinds of things, but it really is an opportunity to learn. It's and if you approach it that way and it's just a conversation and you tried something and somebody else might have some ideas and they're supportive, but have good feedback. I mean, it can be a great experience. It's like one of the best ways to learn as a developer. Nice job on the presentation, Keeley.
Yeah, super nice. Thank you. And I also, just one more thing before we move on to next week's issues, like having a really good code review culture is important, I think, for establishing trust within that team. And so like defaulting to approval and finding the positive and framing your feedback in like a neutral / positive way, right, is really important for building trust with that team so that people aren't afraid to submit pull requests. But I think that everyone here, I was really impressed with the code review that took place this week. I loved the comments that happened, and they were framed in a really positive and helpful light. So great job, everybody. Cool. Yay. I'm really excited about this team. Okay, so I'm going to share the project board and we'll talk about next week's work. So I will post this in the channel after our meeting, but our pairs for this week are Kat and Quinn will be working together this week, and then Tiana and Lauren will be working together this week. Wonderful. And thank you so much for moving your issues through the board. Good job.
I don't think I've ever seen a cohort actually do that.
I know. Honestly, you're all just knocking it out of the park. You're so good. Okay, so let's talk about next week's issues. Excuse me. So issue number 3, I'm going to open it up in a separate little thingy there. As a user, I want to set up a new shopping list so I can start tracking purchased items. So a shopping list consists of a set of items associated with a user's token. Creating a new list consists of the following sequence. 1, generate a new unique token. 2, save the token to local storage. 3, show the user the list view. So you'll navigate to the list view page. We already have a path to get there. The following script should be used to generate a suitable token, and you can find it in source/lib tokens.js. And then the acceptance criteria. For users who do not already have a token or a list, a button or link exists on the home screen that allows them to create a new list. Clicking the button or link generates a new token, saves it to local storage. 3, once the token has been created and saved, the user then is redirected to the list view. And now I'm going to show our cool new wireframe. So I'm going to go, this will be the welcome screen. There we go. So whichever pair is tasked with this issue, you're not responsible for this whole page. But let me call out what this issue covers. So you might want to put like a little message, welcome to your smart shopping list. This is the important part, the create a new list button. So when the user clicks on create a new list, it'll generate a token, save it to local storage, and then boom, you will navigate to the list, right? You're not responsible for creating the list, just navigating to that page. And let's go back to that welcome screen again. Great. So for this does not apply to you, label element with the 4 attributes.
Everything below the create new list thing is future stories.
Future work. Yep. So really it's just this create a new list button navigating to the list page. What questions do people have about that particular task?
If they're creating multiple lists, is the token is more of a list token rather than a user token, right? Since they can have multiple tokens associated with them. So I guess my question is, do we have to clear local storage when they exit out or something eventually, or how does that set up that they'll just always be redirected to that one list page?
Good question. Yep. So this, you'll want to not clear the token out of user storage. In this case, if you wanted to try out generating a new token, and in future stories, you'll have the opportunity to join a list that already exists. But for this, it's just create the token. It persists to local storage. You don't need to clear it from local storage. But if you wanted to, during your course of your development, if you want to create a new list, I would use an incognito window in your browser, and then it won't have that token saved.
Yeah, so once there is a token present, you won't ever see that welcome screen again. So the idea is like the app's not quite as smart as what you're describing. Like it's you'll only ever sort of have one list at a time. That's a feature that you could add that's kind of beyond the scope of what we're going to do here. But yeah, once you create a token, that's your list. You can share the token with somebody else, and they could join the same list, and then you would each have just access to that one list. Good question.
Yeah.
Is everyone familiar with local storage and how that works? Have you worked with that before?
Would that fall under like using state?
It's local storage is it's more like cookie browsers, or like browsers in your cookie or something. Cookies in your browser.
Cookies in your browser.
It's like using tokens. I think I've only ever used them for like password authentication.
Mm-hmm.
And so you guys are talking about tokens, and I have so little experience, and so I'm trying to figure out if that's like a front end or a back end thing, or like I'm sure I could probably.
Yeah. No, it's a super good question. And I don't know if we could pull up that token script and kind of demystify it a little bit. Basically that token.js, all it does is generate a random set of 3 words. So out of this big list of like 10,000 words or something. So the idea is that doesn't have to be super secure, right? Like it's just a shopping list. And if someone deleted an item off your shopping list, oh no, you know, just add it again. But so it's not, you know, we're not going to the level of, you know, like full on passwords and all that kind of stuff. It's basically just something to associate this set of items with your browser. So yeah, the token script does some stuff to make sure that it's truly random, but then it basically just, there's along the top, there's that words thing that stretches out forever. And it just picks 3 of the words and puts them together as a token.
Okay, that makes more sense. I didn't realize that it was like a file we already had in the project.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep, you won't be responsible for this fanciness. It already exists for you to kind of create the token. It's just saving it to local storage is the big part of the task, I think. All right,
There's music going on in your house, Lauren.
My youngest plays violin and my oldest plays cello. There we go. All right, issue number 4. Oh, excuse me. So as a user, I want to add a new item to my shopping list so I can start recording purchases. So this is where that form is really going to come in handy. You're already kind of partway there. You just will want to put it on a different page. A shopping list item consists of the following data points: the name of the item, how soon you're likely to buy it again. Are you going to buy it soon, in the next 7 days, kind of soon, in the next 14 days, or not soon, in the next 30 days? And then it also includes the last purchase. So the acceptance criteria for this particular issue, the user is presented with a form that allows them to enter the name of the item and select how soon they anticipate needing to buy it again. Again, soon, kind of soon, or not soon. When the user submits the form, the item is saved to the database associated with the user's token. So this is where there's going to be a little coordination happening between the teams, right? We have that user's token, and the saving is going to be associated with that token. When the user already did that, along with the item name, an integer corresponding to the estimated number of days until next purchase is saved. So 7 for soon, 14 for kind of soon, and 30 for not soon. The last purchase date should be set to null initially. You can create an item without purchasing it. So the user can input a date field on the form, but they don't have to put a date field in order to submit the item. So let's look at what that should look like. Add item screen. And I pinned a link to these wireframes in our channel. So it should be a little bit easy to find. So again, smart shopping list. The user can enter an item name, and that this is a label and a form element, and this should have a for attribute. And this element then, like the input, should have an ID that's associated with that for. And then one of these timeframes should be selected by default. How soon will you buy this again? Again, this should be a label with a for attribute. Here it's showing radio buttons, and I've noticed that that's kind of the best way to go with this form. So how soon will you buy it again? Soon, kind of soon, not soon. Here's some advice: group the radio buttons with a field set element to help screen reader users understand that they're related. So if you're not familiar with the field set, you want to look up field set for HTML. And then an add item button that will submit the information in the form. Oh, I guess we're not adding are we not adding a date field?
No, yeah. You would, once it's in the list, you could mark it as purchased, and that would add the date.
Okay, so users aren't inputting a date field.
No.
Okay. Never mind. So no, it's only no for purchase date. And then is this part of, this isn't listed in the AC, so I just want to clarify for whoever.
That's a good point. Yeah, that was feedback that we got from EJ about just kind of an accessibility thing where, and I've noticed this in past, with past groups, like you hit the add item button and then you're kind of left to wonder, like, did that work or not? You have to go back to the list to check. So just giving some kind of an alert or something is helpful. We could add that to the AC.
Okay. Yeah, so you could add an alert or some kind of message like below the form saying item added. Just very simple. It's as easy as possible.
Yep.
All right, let's see. What questions do people have about that, about issue 4?
Does that all make sense?
Cool. And then let's see. You might, no, it's not part of the AC. So how do they, I guess they would be able to check if it's been added in Firestore.
Yeah, you could do that. You know, if you, yeah, that's probably the easiest thing.
That's probably the easiest thing. It's just, then you can show in your demo, you can show that it's being added to Firestore and show the different fields.
I mean, although Quinn did have that collection already.
He does already have that list. You could just throw that. You could throw that list on the list page. But yes, but that is not a requirement of this particular issue. So, knowing what the issues are, does anyone have a strong preference for what you'd like to work on? You can. It's okay to want to pick one. All right. All right, and then I will go in order. So Kat and Quinn will have issue number 3. I will let you assign yourselves rather than you watching me type. So Kat and Quinn, your issue number 3, and Lauren and Tiana are issue number 4. Sound good? Cool. So let's, Tiana, did you have a chance yet to pull the repo down?
I cloned it. I haven't pulled an up-to-date version of it.
Okay. Well, let's go through the GitHub process to just make sure everyone is able to get branches and everything set up. So let's have Tiana, actually, if you could share your screen and we can walk you through like pulling down main and getting the latest, and then have you create a branch and we'll just walk through it together.
I'm going to drop so I can join the TCL-10 call, but
okay.
Great job this week, everybody. Well done. Super, super good. There's so many things I liked about this meeting and the way you're all working together already. So have fun. We'll see you later.
Awesome. Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andrew.
Lauren, I was wondering, is the reason that we're calling it main? I saw that there was a move away from like the master terminology. Is this the new now where everyone is calling it main?
Yep, main is that's exactly why we've changed to using main instead of master, just to get away from.
How are you able to do that? To make the how are you able to make a alias for the master branch?
Oh yeah, I've never had to do it myself. Anyone know how to do it? Keeley, do you know how to do it? I think in GitHub you can change like what the default branch is.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah, you can change your root branch to main. It's a little tricky if you have an existing repo with a lot of open branches because you have to rebase all of them. But yeah, otherwise it's just changing your default root branch.
Okay, you would like me to share my screen?
Yeah, if you want to share your screen and then, yep.
I think I need you, Lauren.
I need to stop sharing. There we go.
And I'm just pulling up my GitHub right now, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Am I doing that? Is it working?
Oh, let's see. Have you shared your
there
screen?
it is. It just wanted, it's just making me wait. Zoom will not be able to record the contents of your screen until it is quit. I don't know what the hell it wants me to do.
So that's totally cool. Matt, let's stop. Let's end the meeting. So let me say, great job. End the meeting in terms of recording. Great job, everybody. I'm super impressed with everyone's work. I look forward to seeing your work this coming week. Don't be afraid to reach out for help. So yeah, let's stop the recording, and then you don't have to record everybody creating branches. All right.